Welcome to Memoirs of a White Guy, Chapter 7. Welcome, my second guest, Lewis Spears. Welcome
Thanks
to
for
the
having
podcast.
me.
He's a good friend, fellow comedian, does stand-up, does videos. You may know him from his online stuff. You may not. I mean...
Who knows?
Yeah, but welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Having yet another white guy on Memoirs of a White Guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a change of pace from the other white guys, including myself and
It's really
Jared.
good, man. You're perpetuating the patriarchy, and
Yes,
I'm proud of you.
and that's exactly what I like to do. Trash minorities and...
Keep the women out of office.
Yep.
Keep them in,
Stop the boats. I'm all about...
wage gap.
Yep, any minority can go to hell in this podcast. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
Yep. So, so yeah, you should tell the people who may not... I'm sure lots of people do know who you are and are familiar with your work. But if they don't, tell them what you do. You shit on people online and on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically it. So I'm a stand-up comedian, and I've got a show on YouTube called Lou Review. I run a podcast myself called Spearhead Sundays. My name's Lewis Spears. I'm 6'8". I'm the tallest comedian in Australia. And
Is that a fact?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's
Wow.
the truth. That's a solid fact that I don't tell. Because you know what?
You don't want to brag about that.
No, because I remember, because I am freakishly tall. Like I've never met someone in person taller than me.
He looks like a giraffe fucked a lamppost.
Yeah, but it's better than looking like a disappointment. So,
Ooh, okay.
No, but I remember thinking, shit, I might be the tallest comedian in the world. And I looked it up, and there actually is one guy bigger than me. He's 7'1", but his whole thing is, I'm the tallest comedian in the world.
And
Come and see my show and learn what it's like to be this tall.
So
and that's his only thing.
You can't do... That's not a sustainable career. Going,
Nah.
here's tall and here's an hour every year of
That's like...
me being able to reach shit. Like
yeah,
this.
yeah. Like, you don't want to do... That's not a sustainable thing. Like, you might see that show once, but then when he comes back around... It's like, if someone's in a wheelchair and they go, I'm in a wheelchair, look at me.
Yeah.
And everyone might see that show once to be like, good on you. Fighting spirit. Not letting anything stop you. But then if you come back and go, I'm still in a wheelchair.
Yeah, people go, well,
Like, fucking
maybe-
learn how to walk, mate.
Yeah, maybe... maybe start, seeing a person about that.
Yeah, you want to be, like, if you have a thing that stands out, you want to be, like, I want to be a good comedian.
My thing is
who
not
happens
having
to
a
be
thing.
tall. Yeah,
I don't have a
you're
thing.
very
I'm generic as.
Yeah.
I look generic, have a generic face, have a generic everything, as I talked about last week. And yeah, you were on the podcast briefly last week.
Yeah.
So people would know who you were. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I came in and
and
everyone was like, wow, he's really mean.
Yeah, he talked about, rooting children and like things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all, and then I was like, man, I've got to have this guy on for a whole episode.
I want to be on the news.
Yeah. So yeah, you do have a bit on being tall though, like but only one bit, and after that you were like, yep, I've written a bit on being tall. What else is in my life? Which is good.
Yeah, like I want to be a really funny comedian who happens to be really tall.
But
right, it's like, if you're black, you don't want the only thing to be like, I'm black and this is how I'm different from white folk.
Yeah. Kevin Hardy, you listening?
No, Kevin Hardy does other stuff.
That's true.
He does.
He does stuff, but he talks about his black friends.
He talks about being short.
Yeah, that's true.
And there you go.
Yep.
No, we actually saw Kevin
Yeah, he
Hart.
was great. He was actually really good.
He was good. Now, Kevin Hart was
We went and saw him
cool.
where was he playing? Margaret Court or High Sense? One of the two.
Wasn't it Rod Laver?
Oh, Rod Laver, yeah.
It was Rod
Jim
Laver.
Jeffries was at Margaret Court.
Yeah, well, because I remember I wanted to see Kevin Hart because I just wanted to see what it's like to see comedy in a theater. Because Kevin Hart, he's not really my bag. I like his...
Yeah, I don't ever watch one of his specials, I think. And I'm not like a massive... Like, I'm a fan of him, obviously, because I just respect how hard he works. And
I don't like... I'm not exactly a fan of his content, but I'm the biggest fan of his work ethic.
Yes.
And his business.
All you gotta do is follow this guy on Snapchat for like a week or on Instagram for a day, and you'll be like, okay, he's the hardest working comedian ever.
This year on Forbes, he's the only comedian to ever out-earn Jerry Seinfeld.
And he almost doubled him. Like, Jerry Seinfeld was like 40 million a year, and Kevin Hart was 80.
With like 80. It's crazy. And I was looking. I was like, speaking of how hard he works. Like I was trying to figure out in the past week what have I seen Kevin Hart launch or advertise that he's in, and from the top of my head, I'm sure there's more. He launched some emojis, and then he's got his movie, and then he had his tour. and then he was filming on Jumanji, and then he also has another comedy special movie that's in theaters about his tour. That's his tour filmed.
Yeah.
And then he also has Nike shoes.
Yeah.
Who I think is the only comedian to
And
have
also,
his own shoe.
and then you go see, like, we went and saw his hour, and it was still great. And he's still doing all that other stuff on the side. I don't think that guy sleeps.
Nah, I don't.
all.
Like, you watch his Snapchat, and he goes to gym, he's real fit, and he just flies everywhere. Like, he just makes money, and he works hard, and that's what I... Like, because when I saw the show, I liked it. It was okay, but it was really evident that everybody around me fucking loved it. So like for his audience, they love his shit, and he was really polished. Like everything he said, he knew the show back to front. Yeah, like I really respected. Like it wasn't my thing, but I could totally appreciate.
Yeah, I felt the same. I was like, this would be great if you're a massive fan of Kevin Hart. But I like personally prefer Jim Jeffries' show. Jim Jeffries' show was easily hands down the best show I've ever been to. Yeah, that was just like stadium. It was. He went for almost over 2 hours. It was over he did 2 like hours. 45 minutes of crowd work, I reckon, throughout the 2 hours.
Yeah, and he did heaps.
Yeah, like people only see the 1 hour that he puts on Netflix. Yeah, but he does another hour on top of that. That's hilarious. Yeah, and he just doesn't put in the special because some of it was Australian related material. And obviously, his Netflix material is appealing to a more American audience. Yeah,
and Jim Jeffries, everybody knows him as gun control, as like gun control. Is either gun control or really, really vulgar and really disgusting. Yeah. But he did this one bit
the meat pie.
About meat pies. That's like. Just like Jerry Seinfeld could have done it.
He was like, what's the deal with traveling pies, pretty much.
He was talking about those long pies. Yeah. The traveler pies. And he's like, he was talking about how he saw them first and he was like, those look stupid. But then he had one and he didn't get pie all over himself.
On how he eats pies.
He's like, I've been eating round pies for years like a fucking idiot.
And I've never seen Lewis laugh harder at a joke, I'll be honest.
Oh, it was the best. I just want to listen. I wish it was in his special. Obviously it's not, but like I cried. And he was talking about how we had sausage rolls. We had long technology.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, it's cool. And also, as like up and coming comedians like us, it was cool to go see someone at the top of their game. Yeah, Australian and at the top.
I'd say he's the most successful Australian stand-up
comedian ever.
Right?
Yeah, cool. He's massive around the world. He's one of the only few, like, there's obviously guys who are at the height of Australian comedy, but like there's a whole other level above that,
like Dave Hughes and Will Anderson and all those guys that are at the top of Australia. But Jim, because that's kind of where I want to go. I want to go do what Jim Jeffries did, which is basically get a really solid fan base in Australia and then go and make it in America. Yeah. Because I feel like if you can make it in anywhere in a country that is like, if you go from Australia and you make it anywhere, say if you're really huge in America or the UK or wherever you happen to make it outside of Australia, you can always come home and tour every year. And it's like, remember fucking Luke Kidgell? He's huge in the UK and now he's coming home. Let's go see him, you know? Yeah. Like, I feel if you can make it outside of Australia, Australians...
never said by people ever.
No, but that's the goal, you know?
Yes, obviously, yeah.
Like, I think, if you can make it outside of Australia, we really support you. Yeah. When you come home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be cool. Now, what I want to talk to you about is obviously your... I don't think we need to go into the past, but obviously, if you don't know, Lewis was a part of the anonymous group Face Beef from...
Oh, we went all anonymous. I was anonymous for a little bit.
Was Tristan anonymous? I don't know.
No, he wasn't, no.
But yeah, and then obviously I want to talk about that because that story's been told many a time. But I want to talk about the transition when you started comedy because that was like almost where I'm at like now or a year ago. In the past year, I've just started doing this, you know, devoting my life to this. What was that like at the start? Like just trying to do a new thing and trying to have a new clean sweep of your image and going, now I'm a comedian.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because as growing up, I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Like, I knew I wanted to do it since I was 12. I remember when I was like 10 or 12, I saw Lano and Woodley, their farewell tour, and I was like, holy fuck, this is the best thing that I've ever seen. And I just wanted to see shows, and Mum always took me to the comedy festival, and then slowly I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Well, but I didn't always want to do it as a kid, but I will talk about that in a sec. But when your mum has showed me, this is not even a lie, your mum showed me, how old were you when you wrote that menu? It was the first ever bit of comedy you ever wrote, and it was like when you were 8, and you wrote down the menu of that restaurant, and like instead of Coca-Cola, you wrote Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and it's true, you wanted to be a comedian from when you were
I have
literally...
my joke book
Yeah,
somewhere.
get out your joke book. He has a joke book from when he was a little kid, before he started doing comedy. And I reckon that's the coolest thing ever, because when...
And you know what? The coolest thing about this, check this out.
Is this the actual joke
Got
book?
my book. It's a little red book, so it's like for a 10-year-old. And you know what?
Yeah.
Read that on the
Lewis
front cover.
Rocks from Dave Hughes.
Dave Hughes has
That's
signed
cool.
my book from
That's
when I was
cool.
12. Let me read out one of the...
Yeah, what's your best joke you wrote when... So how old were you when you had this little joke book?
This would have been year 7. How old are you in year 7?
12 or 13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would have been 12.
That's funny, because why are you finding the joke? I'll explain. Like, so when I got into comedy, right, I only ever saw my first comedy show 2015 Comedy Festival. He's not listening to me anymore. He's reading his
I am
joke
listening.
book.
I'm trying to pick a
But
good
yeah,
joke. I'm
I
listening.
went and saw... I'd never even been... I'd watched comedy on TV, but I'd never actually been to a comedy show before 2015 March. And then I started comedy that year in June, and I've never looked back. How weird's that?
That's
like-
such a quick...
Quick obsession.
From
Like
experiencing to just
because I saw it and it blew my mind, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, I want to do this!" And then I never wanted to do anything else with my life. But yeah, obviously, I watched it on the TV. Like every year, I'd watch the gala on the
like
TV.
most people would. I
Yeah,
think.
but I wasn't like, I never really considered it. Like because I'm like, that's such a weird thing to do. I never even considered that I could even do that. And then I watched it be done. I watched Nick Cody's show, and Nick Cody. This
He's
was
great.
before he was like really big. He was just a 100-seater, and now he's been on Conan in America
That's
and stuff.
fucking crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
he's a guy from Melbourne. He's killing it.
That's
and,
so sick to see. I think that
I've never actually told him, because I've met him a couple of times after, but I've never told him that he was the reason why I
you
started
should,
doing
man.
stand-up.
I've had a few people tell me that I'm the reason why they've started stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
and it's honestly
That's
some of the
cool.
most meaningful shit
Yes.
to me to hear.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It happened like 2 weeks ago. The guy who runs Gorilla.
Oh, Matt Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
No, not Matt. There's another guy who runs it
Hamish.
as well. I think it was Hamish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he told me that he messaged me like 2 years ago, and he was like, "Oh, I really want to try stand-up
Oh, that's cool,
comedy."
because we've gigged with him a couple of times.
Yeah,
so
and he never
that's
told
cool.
me, but he told me like once while I was out 2 weeks ago. He's like, "I messaged you, and I really wanted to try comedy, and I asked for your advice, and you told me about how you're gonna suck, and you just gotta do it, and then you were like, oh, here's a photo of my
Oh,
first
yeah,
gig."
you suck at the start. And as we're about to find out from your book.
Yeah, okay, I've got a good. This is actually kind of an interesting observation,
It
right?
is. So,
This
next year's show, or?
No.
No.
Cats wag their tails when they're angry, and dogs wag their tails when they're happy. So I know why they fight. A dog comes up and wags their tail, like wanna play, and the cat thinks, "Ah, you wanna fight." So that's
I was waiting for a punchline.
that's my first
Never
attempt
came.
at a
I
joke.
thought you were gonna do like a pussy punchline or something.
Nah.
But yeah, you were 8, so
Yeah.
that's not bad.
It's not. It's at least an observation.
It's not as
a
good as the
premise.
menu. You had this menu for like this joke restaurant, and Coca-Cola
Yeah.
was the pinnacle. That's the height of comedy.
Well, that would have been when I was like 10.
Yeah.
So as I get older, I'm just getting worse.
Yeah, and now you're just filthy. But like, look how clean you were at the start. You were like Jerry Seinfeld at the start.
I probably didn't know any swear words.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, see, I don't have any of that, because I was like, I'm pretty sure I just was like every other white kid. I wanted to play AFL, I think. Like, I just played footy.
I
and
was always
like,
a bit weird with my interests.
Yeah, that was like, I was pretty generic dude, like in high school. But at the same time, later on in high school, I started to get weird. Like, not weird socially, but like I just started doing shit because I thought it was funny. Like, me and my mates used to jump into bushes and film it at lunchtime. And like, there's still a whole Facebook group dedicated to like, and there's videos where I've got a shaved head in like year 11.
That's
and I'm
great.
like, oh, welcome to hardcore parkour. And then we just jump off like a pole into a bush. And then you hear the teachers run out and go like, oh god, and then we laugh and then we turn off the camera. Like, and then we used to upload it to this Facebook group.
Yeah.
And then, but then by the end, we started to film sketches. So like, but they weren't clever. It was like Harry Potter and the Half-Blood shit. And we filmed a remake of Harry Potter just set in the boys' toilets.
That's hilarious.
So it was like Harry Potty and it was like several. Like we put a jumper and wrapped it around my mate's head as a turban. So one person was playing Snape. Yeah. One person was playing Quirrell.
Yeah.
And there was another person with their head facing the other way playing Voldemort. And we'd turn around. And this was like year 12. Like, this was when we were 100% old enough to know better.
Yeah.
But we just thought this shit was hilarious.
I think that's funny.
We'd have like the Philosopher's Shit instead of Philosopher's Stone. And we'd run through like the doors. Like, we were pretending the toilet door was like platform 9 kills. And this was like when I was 18. I was a full grown man doing this. And that's when I realized that like, and then I did that in year 12 and then just started doing a boring degree and never really thought, I could do comedy. Because I realized I was doing comedy for just my friendship group. Like, we were all doing comedy.
Well, yeah, just for fun. Like, I did comedy for fun. And I always knew that I wanted to do comedy, but I didn't, like, I always wanted to do comedy, but I didn't realize that I needed to do it, like, to be happy with my life until I got a full-time job, until I left school.
I didn't realize that until I needed to do it until I started doing uni. I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah, like, I think that happens with a lot of people where they're like, oh, I would like to do that. But it's not until you start doing other shit, or your life starts going down one path, and you realize, fuck, no, I need to do that because this makes me really unhappy.
I was doing a Bachelor of Music Business because I was in like bands in high school, and I played. That was like, that was my thing. Actually, I wanted to be in a band. So it was like AFL player in primary school. Then high school was like, I want to be in a band, and then. Because I always wanted to perform. I like performing. You know, as I realize now, I used to do jokes in between the songs to fill the awkward silences. And I only realised that now, that at the time I was like, I'll just kill the awkward silence and make people laugh because that's what I was good at.
Yeah.
And now I'm like...
That was comedy.
I realised, I'm like, okay, I've been
same.
subliminally doing comedy for ages. I just never thought of it like it was a serious thing.
Yeah, that's like when Face Beef was around and we would just fuck with people and put it online, and it took me like about a year into it going, hang on, this is comedy. It's not just like, it makes me laugh, but it's also entertaining other people. Because I was just doing it for fun and because, you know, it was naughty, and it made people angry. But then I realized, no, fuck, it actually makes a lot of people laugh.
Look at you now making your naughty videos online.
I know.
Or pretty edgy
stuff.
Actually, you do make pretty edgy stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I don't.
My favourite content to make, and this goes for online and on stage, is it's better explained on stage. Like, when I tell a joke, my favourite reaction is like 80% of people pissing themselves, and then 20% of people going, ooh, or just, fuck, I can't laugh at that.
I love it when something you say gets a reaction like that. Like, I didn't originally do it, and then when I started gigging with you, like, I was like my 8th gig in, and we actually talk about how we met and stuff. I just recorded a podcast with Lewis. Yeah, so if you want a
prelude to this one.
Yeah, it's like the prequel of this podcast. We've already recorded a podcast today on Lewis's Spearhead Sundays. So that'll be up on Sunday, yeah?
Yeah, that'll be up Sunday.
Yeah, and this will be up Monday.
So that'll be up yesterday.
Yeah. So go listen to
Just Google Lewis Spears podcast.
Yeah, so I was on Lewis's, and we talked about this. Like, when I met you, I think I was like, I didn't have clean stuff. Like, I wasn't clean, but I was very like, I didn't say stuff that mattered or had a point to it, like to make the audience react, which is what comedy is about. Yeah. And then we started doing this room shisha comedy, and it's to really reserved, like
completely sober. There's no alcohol being served.
It's the only non-alcohol room in Melbourne.
Yeah,
I think probably in Australia.
And it was all Arabs.
They're all conservative Arabs who don't care about you at all. And what I learnt from doing that, I did that every single week, and that's how me and Lewis became good friends. Was I just did that every single week for like, you did it for a year before I even came there.
Yeah, so I think I did it every week for about almost 2 years.
Yeah, and I did it every week for a year, and then
you just get, and that was one of the hardest rooms in the country because the people, the type of people that were there is if you didn't grab their attention and prove yourself to be funny within a minute, they would
Go on their
stop
phones
listening,
and
it wasn't even like they would not laugh. You've lost them completely.
Yeah,
like,
they would just start talking
stop.
to their friends. They turn around completely and just ignore you
Yeah.
for 5 minutes. So what? And like the first time I did all right, and then I think the second or third time I came back and I was like, oh, okay, I've got to say something that gets their attention. And then I started writing stuff that it's not like ruder or edgier. It was just like it had a punch to it, and like I started saying things that would make people their ears prick up and be like, oh, okay, we're onto something
he talking
here.
about? Yeah.
And then you know what I mean? Like, and that really helped with comedy, like just saying something that gets, because it's different online stuff. You don't have to evoke a reaction. You can just make someone smirk in front of their computer, and they go, that's really funny, but they think it. But to actually have someone in front of you, make them go from, it's so stupid, like just make this concept, make them go from straight face to evoking laughter from them is so hard. It actually is hard.
I've never thought about it like that.
It is, because it's weird.
When I watch videos online, a good video, sometimes I won't even laugh. Like, out loud, I'll watch it and I'll be like, that was funny, I enjoyed that.
But actually make the person
if I go to a
laugh,
comedy show and it's good, but I don't actually laugh, I'll be like, well, why did I pay for that?
Because I think we were both doing videos before we did comedy. I did about 6 months of on and off just videos, but it was mainly for my friends.
I think I did videos for about 2 years before I ever stepped on stage.
And it's a whole different thing. As soon as you step on stage, you're like, okay, I'm actually going to make
completely different skill set. I think the only thing that really translated over for me was how to write comedy. Like, I had an idea of it needs to start small and gradually build up and have the funniest joke last.
Yes.
It's basically the biggest rule of comedy, and tension and release.
Yeah. Man, this is like a massive comedy nerd chat now.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think that kind of stuff is interesting. But if it's not, we can talk about something else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we didn't really talk. So, yeah, I've opened for... I mean, it's still going to be about comedy, because that's what we both have. That's why you're here.
Well, I had so many... Sometimes I would get people complain on my podcast when they'd be like, oh, all you do is talk about shows. And that was during the 2 months while I was touring.
That's
it's
all
like,
I
do you understand? That's the only thing that I've done.
Yeah.
And I've also been working up to this moment for fucking 12 months.
I think people get it, like, when they see an hour and it just goes for an hour for them, but to you, it's like a year. It's like you've devoted a year of your life into that hour. Like, next year, people are going to... If you come out and see my hour... I'm trying to make that hour of stand-up the best content I've ever made. Like,
that's
so
year of hard
work.
Surpassing
my online stuff, surpassing anything, and obviously you do the same.
Yeah.
And so I'm going... I opened for Lewis last year. He was very nice to have me open for his Melbourne show, and I went to Brisbane and Sydney with him, as I've said on the podcast. I feel like you get mentioned on this podcast far too much. Yeah.
Oh, well.
No, it's too much.
I'm happy. You can talk about me all you want.
We're sick of each other.
Yeah, we are. We've seen each other too much.
Like, this is why we're really having a mundane, like, just boring discussion, because I reckon the last month, I see you more than my girlfriend.
Yeah, I think in the last month, basically, because it's like September, October, we've really been knuckling down and trying to perform as much as possible to lock in our shows, especially because around December it's quite hard to get spots everywhere because it's the Christmas thing, so they get professionals. Usually businesses will fork out money to get established professionals, so it's harder to get spots. So really, from now until about early Feb is when we really need to lock in the show and what it's going to be.
And like, registrations for the comedy festival open today. I don't think people realize that like you have to have everything organized. By the end of the month, I have to have a show name, a show description, a poster, a title, and it's all for 5 months away, and I haven't even written half the show yet.
Yeah, that's when I did my first show, that really surprised me. Because I had to have you had to have the description of the show,
and I don't know what
I'm
the show's
sitting there
about
with
yet.
But I only have 20 minutes of my show.
Like, my show's about The Bachelor and and
but then
you
might come up with 40 minutes of stuff that's not that. So, but yeah, I think that. But yeah, I guess when you sit down and you watch an hour of comedy, you just don't. There's no way you could ever comprehend the amount of work that goes into that hour. And I suppose the same is when you listen to an album. An album will go for 50 minutes, but that's like, some albums have 300 people that pour their life and their soul into it.
Yeah, like my band spent 3 years on an album, so we only spend 1 year on a show. Yeah.
What are we talking about? You
I don't know.
opened for me.
Oh yeah, so I opened for Lewis, right, and then this year I'll be opening for him again or whatever. So, and also go check out Lewis' podcast if you don't know who Lewis is, but highly doubt that. Man, you've been taken off online lately, like...
It has been
Like a
getting
lot. It's cool.
a lot bigger.
Well done.
I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not famous, so I'll never. Sometimes people tell me that I'm famous, and
It happened yesterday when we were at the park. This kid runs up to him and goes, Lewis! And then he goes to his girlfriend, this guy's famous.
And then she goes, yeah, she said, who's this guy? And he goes, oh, he's this famous guy. And she's like, really? And it's like, dude, obviously I'm not famous.
Yeah, she goes, why are you famous? And what are you supposed to say? Oh, because I'm not.
I just told her I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
She's like, why are you famous? Like, oh, I'm a comedian. And it's like, I'm so not. Like, I'm
But you know what, though?
known. I'm not famous,
But
though.
when I met you, getting back to like when I first met you at this Sheesh Club, we explained the story, pretty much all the good content we discussed on Lewis's podcast. So if you want, like, we discussed how we met, we discussed funny stories on his tour and stuff. So if you want to go listen to that, go check that out. But yeah, like when I met you, I was a bit like, because I've been a fan of your stuff before I met you, and I met you and I was like, oh, I know who this guy is. And I was a bit like, I wasn't like, you know, some people meet you in the street and they shake. It's weird.
That's weird. I just want to tell them, like, bro, I'm not that good.
Yeah. People like shake when they meet you. But yeah, when I met you, I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is cool. I'm meeting Lewis. And now I'm like, I can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
Like,
Because
I'm sick of you. But
yeah, I'll only ever admit that I'm famous if there's paparazzi following me. That to me is the true definition of fame. When someone can take a photo of you and sell it to a magazine for money, then you're famous.
That's proper fame. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to get into... And this has been, like, I think the most interesting but least funniest podcast I've done. So let's get into more trivial things. Mm-hmm. So your podcast goes in the opposite. Lewis doesn't get trivial questions in his podcast. He gets, like... In-depth, my life is a crisis, please help questions. And I get, like... First question. This is pretty much sums up the questions that I get. And I asked some of you guys to send in questions for me and Lewis to answer, for, you know, questions for us personally. And you guys delivered. The first question is from Liam. And I feel like because we hang out so much, we give off a different vibe. Yeah. The first question is, have you and Lewis ever had a gay experience? And I see what he means, because we hang out too much. Not really intentionally, because we always like working on shit together. We write comedy
it's productive.
Together.
Like, I don't like Luke, but he's good at what he does, so I see him a lot.
And it's reciprocated. So, yeah, have we ever had a gay experience? No.
I don't think so.
No, we haven't.
I can't think
Have our hands ever touched and we've just both ignored it? Or
Nah. I'm trying to think of the gayest situation.
The gayest thing we did was we got an ice cream together
that was pretty gay.
At the Sydney show.
Yeah, after our Sydney show, I wanted to walk across
It was the next night.
Yeah, the next night.
And you'd never walked across the bridge, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we got an Uber down to the harbour, and then we're like, oh, we'll get an ice cream. So we're walking along, eating these ice creams together.
Across the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Walking along the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Super romantic.
And it was like 11 p.m. at night. We're the only ones on there.
Actually, no, you know, on that night, I did think, maybe I could cheat on my girlfriend with Luke.
Yeah.
I did think that.
Well, my girlfriend calls you... That goes, oh, like, I'm like, oh, she's like, what are you doing today? And I'm like, oh, going to Lewis's. She's like, say hi to your boyfriend. Like,
she's jealous.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's cool.
Yeah. So,
see, my girlfriend doesn't give a fuck about you.
No, my one sent me this. You ready?
Yeah.
She sent me a fake question. She said,
do you
guys just hold hands or completely suck each other off? Well, so I feel like we give off a strong gay vibe, which, by the way, nothing wrong with. Nothing wrong with giving off a gay vibe.
Nothing wrong with being... Well, I think
if you're a heterosexual dude, there's something you're doing wrong, though.
There's something wrong with giving off a gay vibe if you're not gay.
Yeah.
Because then you're just doing it wrong. You're just being straight
being
incorrect.
Heterosexual incorrectly. So to answer your question, Liam, that was probably the gayest thing we've done.
I'd say, like, that was, like...
Oh, actually, one time, no, I never brought this up with you, but... You came, because we were rooming together, obviously, on your tour, and I think it was in Sydney, and I was editing a video.
Was that when I came on your back?
Yes. I didn't want to bring it up to you, to your face, but
Sorry.
I had to go wipe it off, and it was got everywhere.
What were you actually talking about?
So I was editing a video on the couch, and you came out of the shower just draped in a towel. And then we were talking.
And you thought, hey, that's nice.
No. Well, yes. That's what I was... And we were talking, and you just... And I think you had your undies in your hand, I knew they were on the floor or something. and you just had a towel around you, and we just were having like a normal discussion. We were talking about the show or something, like, oh yeah, what time do we need to do this? You know, what time's the flight or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just had a full conversation where you were completely naked except for a towel. And then you walked into your room and got changed, and I was like, that was weird.
I never thought that was weird. You know what? I think that Liam, to answer your question, we've never had a gay experience where we've both in the moment gone, yeah, this is gay. But looking back on shit, we're going, fuck.
Well, the fact that I see you more than my girlfriend, like this week I've probably seen you 4 times. Last week I saw you like 5 times. Yeah. I see you a lot.
But you know what? We're getting sick of each other. Yeah. Like, I'm looking forward to not seeing Luke
next
tomorrow.
week.
So I think that's the difference.
I'm not going to speak to Luke. But you know what, though? Even when we don't see each other, you're still tagging me and shit on Facebook. And I'm like, mate, you can't get enough of me. Just back off, Luke.
Sorry, mate. Just get your girlfriend out of your life so we can be happy.
Yeah. The next question is from... Who's it from? It's from Kyle. Do you guys help each other with writing jokes, and do you find your material genre similar to each other?
That's an interesting question. We definitely help each other writing jokes.
But I don't think our our style of comedy is very different.
Yeah, real different. Yeah. I think our comedy is super, super different, but it appeals to almost the same audience. Luke gets more girls than I do.
Only because since the Bachelor video, lots of girls have been liking my page. Because
I think even when you perform, though, I think girls seem to like you.
Generally, usually it's weird. Girls generally find me funnier than guys. Because I think I come off as not feminine, but like really approachable and like harmless. Yeah. I come off as very harmless, and I feel like you come off as a bit more intimidating than me.
Yeah, I think so. Because the stuff that I do, I wouldn't say that my stuff.
But at the same time,
vulgar.
though, like some of your shows was like 80 dudes, 4 chicks. Yeah. And I would still smash in front of 80 dudes. I know how to play to an audience, like. Yeah. But at the same time, I felt like some of those bits were a bit unnatural to me. Like I was just doing the dick jokes. Like obviously, every comedian has an assortment of jokes about the cock.
Of course.
And
it's fucking funny. Have you ever seen a flaccid penis? It's fucking funny as shit.
It's hilarious. That's why we joke about it, because it looks ridiculous. So, but I feel like if I did say some of the other material that I was doing in my show, it wouldn't have appealed as much to your audience.
Yeah, because I think that my style of humor, it's not exactly vulgar, but I definitely do talk about taboo stuff.
More hard hitting that people. You say if you went and watched Lewis's stand up with your parents, you might be like, cool, feel a bit uncomfortable at points during the show. Yeah. But I reckon you could come watch my show with your dad and
it'd be fine.
There'd be like maybe 1 or 2 moments where you felt a little
I've had a lot of dads tell me that they love the
Old
show.
People really like my material.
I don't think I've ever had a mum tell me they like the show. Oh, I have had one mum.
Yes, I remember that.
One mum
she came by herself. I was there. That was bizarre. That was bizarre.
This woman, she was like 50 and she came and she's like, oh, my sons love you. And I'm like looking for sons. I'm like, oh, where are they? She goes, oh, I came by myself. Can we get a photo that I can send to them? And I was like, shit, do you want me to be their dad? But she was really cool.
Yeah, she was cool.
And she said she was probably responsible. I think they were 14. She's like, I'm going to bring them next year. Yeah. Because she was like, I wanted to see you first.
Oh, yeah.
And then she decided, I won't bring them back this year because they're too young. Yeah. I'll come back when they're 15, which I think is
And that's
good.
Cool that she liked it as well and was like, I still think you're great. I just don't think it's appropriate yet. But yeah, I mean, you don't advertise your shows as for kids. You've said before, it's not for kids. It's not a kids show. It's a proper stand-up show. And 13-year-olds... Dude, there was a kid on his 12th birthday. Okay, remember that little kid?
Bad parent.
And I ripped him hard because I was doing this joke. It was so funny. I can burn it because I'm not going to do it again. Yeah. Like, every time there was... and I think people thought it was crowd work, but every single night there was...
one night it was crowd work, and then you turned it into a bit.
Yeah, see, one night I just did it off the cuff, and then and it was really funny, and I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this.
Often you'll find material that you just say while you're on stage, and you're like, fuck, that's so funny that I should say it every night.
So the first time, there was this little kid, and I was like, holy shit, you're young, because it was just distracting. I was trying to perform, and there was like this 12-year-old, and he looked like 10. He was tiny. And I was like, dude, you look... I was like, oh my God, it was a school night. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm like, what's your name? And no, sorry, I was like, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 12. In like that voice, and everyone burst out laughing. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. And then I was like, oh, what's your name, man? And he was like, I forget what his name said. He was like, James. And I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, James. My name's Puberty. We haven't met before. And I did that off the cuff once, and it was
such a funny
destroyed.
joke.
And then literally every single other date of your show,
there was one show where you couldn't find anyone.
Yeah, there was no one young,
But every show, Luke was looking out for the
on the way in. I was like scouting for 12-year-olds, which is what I do anyway. So I was pretty good at scouting for 12-year-olds.
Well, that's why
you'll often find me hanging outside primary schools.
Yeah, that's why I got Luke at the show, because I see him putting so much effort into hanging out at schools, watching out for parents. You know, don't want to get caught. So I'm like, look, just come to my show. There's always a couple of kids.
There's always kids there.
Yeah,
but yeah, going back to the question. We do help each other write jokes a lot. Like before the festival, especially. I mean, we still do. Like we were writing jokes literally. But it's not 10 minutes before.
We help it, but it's not like I will write an entire joke and be like, "Here you go, Luke."
No, so we'll go to each other like, "Hey, I've got this whole bit. It's like an 8 out of 10. How can we bring it up to a 10?" And I'll be like, "Oh, why don't you try this?" And then I'll say to Lewis like, "You know, it's missing one line at the end. I feel like it doesn't." And he'll be like, "How about you try this?" And I'll be like, "Yep, now it works."
Because Luke's really good at writing setup, and I'm really good at writing punchlines.
We're like a good team.
Yeah. Because I struggle. My setup generally when I'm at the start of a joke is what setup is.
Yeah,
I start talking about something not funny enough, not funny quick enough. So often I'll be too long, and then often Luke will help me.
I'll come into jokes usually with my setup will be 3 jokes, like bang, 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 and then it's just laughing, and then I'll go into. But yeah, often you'll be like, here's an idea, blah, 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 and that's what you'll come up with first. And then you'll have like 1 or 2 jokes in there, but I'm like, I reckon there's a joke at the start there. Because it keeps the audience in tune with going along with your idea. And yeah, that's true. Like, I sometimes, we're a good team. Yeah,
I think so.
I help write setups and Lewis helps write punchlines.
Because often Luke will have like this great premise and this idea that's really funny at the start and then sometimes trails off. It's like, I don't know how to end it. I'll be like, just say this and so it's not like we write jokes for each other, but we definitely improve each other's material.
We talked about this again in Lewis's podcast. I feel like this is just like part 2. But so if you want to go listen to that, we talked about one joke specifically that we wrote together, which was fun. For like 3 weeks before the festival. And it originally started off with my premise, and then I was like, you come up with a really good punchline, and I was like, well, I think that's more suited to you. Yeah. So then I was like, and by the end it wasn't even my joke anymore because it was so far from the original idea that I had. I just had one line, and then we were like, yeah, that's funny. And then you kind of came up with the rest of the joke, and I was like, oh, that's your joke now. Like, it wasn't really my style doing that joke anyway, so it was good. So I hope that answers your question, Kyle. And I think that answers it. Finn. I think this is the second last question.
Yep.
Said, hey Luke, love your shit, man. You've got a great style of comedy and are definitely going places. Thanks, Finn. Heard you're going to have Lewis on, so I thought I'd send in a question for him. Here goes. Lewis, what makes you want to neck yourself more? Miscellaneous bit at the end or being on Luke's podcast? Keep killing it, boys.
Everybody who doesn't listen to my podcast is confused.
First of all, eat a barrel of dicks, Finn. Oh yeah, that's true. You wouldn't get that. So
miscellaneous bit at the end is a massive fucking in-joke in my podcast where basically, well, it's not an in-joke, it's a reality. Basically, when I answer the questions, they're so shit that I'd rather kill myself.
Yeah, so it's the worst part of Lewis's podcast by far. See, my podcast don't have a worst bit, it's all top shelf stuff. I mean, every episode is the worst part of my podcast. So yeah, what makes you want to neck yourself more? Miscellaneous bit or being here?
I don't think anything could be worse than miscellaneous bit.
Okay.
Like nothing could ever top the stress and the agonizing pain of reading out questions from my listeners.
See, I actually enjoy it. Reading out questions. So
I'm liking this. This is great.
So I get way more trivial stuff.
I'd rather die.
Yeah, people just throw all their life's problems on you, and
sometimes so many emails I've gotten have been such in-depth life questions that they're like a whole page of writing. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a really interesting question, but I cannot read that whole fucking thing.
So you guys send in really funny stuff. I'm constantly actually laughing at the questions that get sent into me.
I rarely laugh at mine.
It is hilarious.
I'm like, oh man.
I love it when you guys send in questions. Keep sending in more questions. You can do that at luke.kidgell@gmail.com, or on my Facebook page. But yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah, send Luke some funny questions, because I read them. I don't laugh at mine. I just go, wow, that must suck. I feel so sorry for you.
Yeah, because me and Lewis are out at gigs, and I'll be receiving questions, and I'll be like, oh, how funny is this one? And they'll be like, yeah, that's really funny. And then he'll get one. It's like, oh, I'm been depressed for 5 years, and my life's falling apart. Please help. And I'm like, well, that's not funny.
Yeah.
All right, next question. I think this is the last one. It's from Scott. Hey, there seems to be a running rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne. So why does Melbourne suck so much? Where do you reckon Scott's from?
Probably Sydney.
Probably Sydney.
A shithole.
Yeah.
Look,
Honestly, I love Sydney. I love it. It's like, I wouldn't want to live there, but I love going there. The harbour and stuff is beautiful.
I don't like Sydney.
Really?
I like
it.
I don't like...
It's my favourite place I've gone.
The roads are fucked. And it
driving
doesn't matter where you're going in Sydney. Everywhere is uphill. Even if you go somewhere and then you come back the same way, it's
uphill
fucking
both
uphill.
ways.
Yeah. And that's the only reason I hate Sydney.
Yeah, okay.
Because I love walking everywhere.
But I do like the harbour bit.
The harbour's beautiful.
When we were staying near like Redfern the second time, and that was average. But the bit where the harbour is and like the
that's awesome. I'm
gonna
go. I can't wait to go back there next year. I went there the first time and then the second time with Luke, and I want to go
going
again.
back next year. You can have another ice cream.
Yeah.
I reckon that this time we should probably.
We should just make
should probably
out on the
rail
bridge.
me like on the Opera House on the tip of.
Yeah, bend you over one of the arches.
Yeah. Nah, I wouldn't want to spill my ice cream. So.
That's true.
The question was, why does Melbourne
We should
suck
be
so
fair.
much?
What's shit about Melbourne?
I think
the people.
I mean, wankers. It's like, the whole cafe, the whole hipster thing.
Yeah,
I would give them that. That's.
Although Sydney is getting that.
Yeah, Sydney's just as worse.
Have you seen all those people who dress like they think it's the 90s? Like Sydney has those kind of hipsters.
Yeah, but Melbourne. I mean, we're better. Sport,
culture, city layout.
Yeah, the grid system. You guys, if you look at a map of Sydney and you look at a map of Melbourne, we have like a grid, so like it just goes, and it's so easy because there's different blocks, and you can walk. Me and Lewis did it the other day. We just walked around the entire CBD to gig from gig.
Yeah,
and everything's within a kilometre of each other.
Yeah.
Sydney is like there's two halves to your city. There's a main part, and then you go across the bridge, and it's still kind of a bit of a city, not really.
And there's so many one-way roads. I remember this is when I decided that I hated Sydney.
Yeah, but that's why I like Sydney, because again, wouldn't want to live there, but I never have to drive when I'm there because I don't have a car, so I'm either getting Ubers or public transport.
No, this is when I decided I hated Sydney, right? I tried to get an Uber because I wanted to go to this shop so I could try on this jacket that I'm wearing and buy it, right?
Yeah.
So I got an Uber, and on the map, the Uber, if I walked towards the car, would have been 2 minutes. But because Sydney has so many one-way streets, it took him literally half an hour to get to me. And I was looking at it going, where the fuck is he going? He's taking so many wrong turns. My driver is an idiot. But then I finally figured out there's so many one-way streets that was the quickest way for him to get to me.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. Because in Melbourne, it's really pretty easy to drive around. Man, I don't really like driving around the city just because it's busy, but it's fine.
Yeah, like I think he was 2 streets down. I could have walked there in 2 minutes, but ridiculous. It took him half an hour.
Yep. So Melbourne doesn't really suck that much, mate. It's actually alright. I'm very grateful.
I love Adelaide.
I mean, really?
I love Adelaide. I could live there.
Why?
Because
that's the first use of the megaphone this week. Oh wait, Lewis also has a megaphone.
Let me tell you why.
Oh, your one's way louder. Does your one have a siren?
Let me tell you why
why?
I like Adelaide. Because everybody in Adelaide is so nice and so hot. Have you noticed that all the girls in Adelaide are just the hottest shit you've ever seen?
I've only been there once.
And I have a theory about this because there's nothing to do in Adelaide other than work on your appearance and work on your personality. So that's why I like Adelaide.
That's actually a good reason. Yeah. That's true. What about, Tassie, man, there must be real
Never
hot
been
there.
to Tassie.
Dude, I've heard Canberra's really boring.
I've been to Canberra.
I've got a cousin who studies there.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is a no joke story. Yeah. He's like, I went to a Macca's at 5 p.m. and it was closed.
What?
Like an inner city Macca's, and they just closed because like, oh, they didn't get enough business.
That's crazy.
After 5.
I went to Canberra on school camp, but it doesn't really count because it was school camp. But I met 2 people from Canberra a month ago, and I fucking hated them. So I'm just assuming that it's a hole.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, your question was just why does Melbourne suck so much, and it doesn't. So it sucks
mate.
a bit, but yep, pretty shit question. Thanks for sending it in though, Scott.
Yeah, that's how you know Melbourne's good when even I think, how is Melbourne shit? And I try and think of things that I hate about Melbourne. And I honestly can't really think of
that many things.
No.
We have the best comedy festival, which is good for us.
Yeah, like the comedy scene is so good here.
We have, there's no place in the world I'd probably actually rather be doing comedy than Melbourne. Other than maybe New York, but not really, because there's lots of competition.
In America you have to...
Lots of Americans come here to do stand-up.
I hear in America a lot of rooms, like our stand-up rooms, you actually have to pay money to get on.
Which is ridiculous, so...
But, if that's how it was run, I'd pay, Yeah. That's the only way you get spots.
Yeah. Cool, so that's it. Yeah, Melbourne's the bomb diggity. Fuck off, Scott. Go take your...
That's a shit name, Scott.
Scott. Yeah, that's true. I don't know anyone called Scott in Melbourne.
I do. Curse is called Scott.
Oh. All right. That's just about wraps up the podcast. Have you got anything else to say, Lewis?
Check out my episode of the podcast. Me and Luke have a really interesting chat about writing comedy and what it was like going on tour around Australia.
There's a few really good stories. And also just stories of just being disrespectful to Airbnb rooms. That was funny.
Yeah, it was good.
So go listen to that.
Check me out. Otherwise, keep listening to Luke's podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
And
I don't have a sign-off yet.
Keep the patriarchy going. Could leave it at that.
Thanks, guys.